Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel Legal Decipher. In the previous video, we had talked about chapter 24 of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973. If you have not seen that video, you can go and check it. The link is in the description below. Today we are going to learn about chapter 25 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. We'll go through the chapter and try to understand how the Criminal Procedure Code is followed and how the criminal courts work. So if you are new here, please like and subscribe to my channel to get the video notifications. So let's get started. So today we are going to talk about chapter 25, which deals with the provisions as to accused persons of unsound mind. So this chapter relates to the persons that are accused persons and they are unsound mind. So where the accused person is of an unsound mind, then the following procedures will be applicable on him in regard to a criminal case. So let's start with section 328 that talks about procedure in case of accused being lunatic. So where the accused is a lunatic person, then what will be the procedure? So it says that when a magistrate holds an inquiry, has reasons to believe that the person against whom the inquiry is being held is of unsound mind. So when the courts find out that the accused person is of an unsound mind and consequently incapable of making his defense, and because of that unsound mind, he is not capable of making his own defense. So in that case, the magistrate shall inquire into the facts of such unsoundness of mind. So he will go through the nature of that particular person who is of unsound mind, and he shall cause such person to be examined by the civil surgeon. So the court will appoint a civil surgeon for the examination of that accused person. The civil surgeon of the district or such other medical officer as the state government may direct. So it will be either the district civil surgeon or any other state government affiliated medical officer for that purpose, and thereupon he shall examine such surgeon or other officer as a witness. So the evidence or the examination will be done by the surgeon, and thereafter that surgeon will be examined in court as a witness. So in this case, the examination will be conducted in two phases. That is, the first phase is where the surgeon will take the examination of the accused person who is of so unsound mind, and the latter phase of the examination, the second phase, will be that the civil surgeon will be examined in a court and shall reduce the examination to writing. That civil surgeon, whatever he gives in such examination, whatever he has founded upon such lunatic person who he was, so he will give such examination before the court, and such examination will be reduced to writing. Now it also says in subsection 1a that if the civil surgeon finds that the accused is of unsound mind, then he shall refer such person to a psychiatrist or clinical psychologist for care, treatment and prognosis of the condition, and the psychiatrist or clinical psychologist, as the case may be, shall inform the magistrate whether the accused is suffering from unsoundness of mind or mental retardation. So where the civil surgeon finds that such accused is of unsound mind, then he shall always refer such person to a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist. Okay, for what purposes? For the purposes of care, treatment and prognosis of the condition of that particular person who is of unsound mind, that accused. And such psychiatrist or clinical psychologist, whoever be appointed for this reason, shall inform the magistrate whether the accused is actually suffering from unsoundness of mind or mental retardation or not. Now provided that if the accused is aggrieved by the information given by the psychiatric or clinical psychologist to the magistrate, he may prefer an appeal before the medical board, which shall consist of. Now say for example, the accused is aggrieved of the information given. Say for example, the information that is given against him is of another nature, that does not apply to him, or whatever may be the case, if he is aggrieved that the information that is given by that psychiatric or clinical psychologist to the magistrate, then he may challenge such information and prefer an appeal before the medical board. And that medical board shall consist of the head of psychiatry unit in the nearest government hospital and a faculty member in psychiatry in the nearest medical college. So there will be a head of psychiatry and a faculty member. So these two persons will constitute a medical board, and that appeal will be heard before such medical board. Now, pending such examination and inquiry, the magistrate may deal with such person in accordance with the provisions of section 330. So when the examination and inquiry is pending, then the magistrate will deal with such person as per the provisions of section 330 of this code. Now, if such magistrate is informed that the person who is so referred to in subsection 1A is a person of unsound mind, so if it is found out that he is actually a person of unsound mind, then the magistrate shall further determine whether the unsoundness of mind renders the accused incapable of entering defense or not. So it will be upon the magistrate to determine whether such unsoundness of mind renders the accused person that he will be incapable of entering into his own defense. So that parameter will be determined by the magistrate, that whether the unsoundness renders him incapable of defending himself. And if the accused is found so incapable, so it is found that actually that person is incapable due to such unsoundness of mind, then the magistrate shall record a finding to that effect. He will note it down and shall examine the record of evidence produced by the prosecution, and he will also examine the prosecution evidence. And after hearing the advocate of the accused but without questioning the accused, so after the prosecution evidence is done, then after the accused person's advocate will be heard, his side of the case will be heard, and then without questioning the accused will not be questioned. If he finds that no prima facie case is made out against the accused, so after going through the evidence of the prosecution and after hearing the advocate for the defense and without questioning the accused, if the magistrate finds out that there is no prima facie case, then he shall, instead of postponing the enquiry, discharge the accused. So the accused will be discharged on that ground and deal with him in the manner provided under section 330. Now, provided that if the magistrate finds a prima facie case in respect of which an unsound mind person is accused of, then he shall postpone the proceeding for such period as in the opinion of the psychiatrist or clinical psychologist is required for the treatment of the accused. So until the treatment for such unsoundness is done, up to that period of time the proceedings shall be postponed and the accused will be dealt with under section 330. Now, if such magistrate is informed that the person referred to in subsection 1A is a person with mental retardation, then the magistrate shall further determine whether the mental retardation renders the accused incapable of entering defense. And if the accused is found so incapable, then the magistrate shall order closure of the inquiry and deal with the accused in the manner provided under section 330. So if the magistrate is then and there informed that the person who is so referred to in subsection 1A is a person with mental retardation, then the magistrate shall further determine whether the mental retardation that we are talking about renders the accused incapable of entering into defense. And if he is found incapable to defend himself, then the magistrate shall order closure of the inquiry and deal with the accused as per section 330. Now let's move on to the next section. It talks about procedure in case of person of unsound mind tried before court. So if a unsound mind person is tried before the court, then what will be the procedure regarding it? It is said in section 329 which says that if at the trial of any person before the magistrate or court of sessions, it appears to the magistrate or that court that such person is of unsound mind and consequently incapable of making his defense, then the magistrate or court shall, in the first instance, so it will be on the very first day of the proceedings, try the fact of such unsoundness and incapacity. So first, the ground that whether the person is unsound and incapable or not will be determined on the very first instance, that means the very first hearing of the case. And if the magistrate or court, after considering such medical and other evidence as may be produced before him, if he is satisfied of the fact that he or it shall record a finding to that effect and shall postpone further proceeding of the case, then he will do so. So on the very first day of the hearing, the matter will be decided whether that person is unsound or not and incapable or not, considering all the medical documents that is presented before it, and after that it will record its findings as to what he has found out on basis of those medical papers and the condition of the accused, and he will either postpone further proceedings of the case or he may continue with it. So the discretion is in the hands of the magistrate or the court of sessions, as the case may be. Now subsection 1a talks about if during trial the magistrate or court of sessions finds that the accused to be of unsound mind, then he or it shall refer the person to a psychiatrist or clinical psychologist for care treatment, and in that case a report shall be made by the magistrate or court where the accused is suffering from unsoundness of mind. So the procedures are all the same as we have read in the previous section. Always the court will find the unsoundness or incapacity of that person due to such unsound mind on the very first day of the hearing, and it shall record its findings as to what he has found after going through all the medical evidence. And after that, if the magistrate thinks fit, then he may postpone the case, and he may also refer such unsound accused to a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist for his care and treatment. Now provided that if the accused is aggrieved by the information given by it, then the same thing will happen. A medical board will be set up, and before that board an appeal will be heard, and that medical board shall have a head of psychiatry in the nearest government hospital and a faculty member in psychiatry in the nearest medical college. So these two persons will always constitute a medical board, and before that board there will be an appeal that will be heard regarding such information if the accused person is aggrieved with it. So that is the universal procedure in case of trying accused who is of unsound mind, and any information that is provided about his medical conditions and he is aggrieved of such information. So the procedures will be the same. Now if such magistrate or court is informed that the person referred to in subsection 1a is a person of unsound mind, then the magistrate or court shall further determine whether unsoundness of mind will render him incapable of entering into defense, and the accused is so incapable, then the court shall record that finding, and after going through the evidence produced by the prosecution and after hearing the advocate of the accused, without questioning the accused, the magistrate or court may discharge him if there is no prima facie case found against him. So all the procedures are the same that we have read in the previous section. Section 328 and 329 are identically same. They talk about the same thing. It also provides that a magistrate or court finds a prima facie case is made out against the accused, then he shall postpone the trial just like the previous occasion. And if the magistrate or court finds that a prima facie case is made out against the accused and he is incapable of entering into defense by reason of mental retardation, then he or it shall not hold the trial and order the accused to be dealt with in accordance of section 330. So that is what section 330 talks about. It talks about the release of person of unsound mind pending investigation or trial. So whenever a person is found under section 328 or 329 to be incapable of entering into defense by reason of unsoundness of mind or mental retardation, then the magistrate or court, as the case may be, shall, whether the case is one in which bail may be taken or not order release of such person on bail. So whether that case allows an accused to take bail or not, that will not be considered here. In all the cases, if the person is of unsound mind, he will be released on bail. So irrespective of the nature of the case, he will be provided a bail. Now, provided that the accused is suffering from unsoundness of mind or mental retardation which does not mandate inpatient treatment, and a friend or relative undertakes to obtain regular outpatient psychiatric treatment from the nearest medical facility and to prevent from doing injury to himself or to other person, then it can be done. So this proviso talks about that where a person who is of unsound mind, but the nature of such unsoundness of mind is not that such patient will be needing a inpatient treatment, then if any friend or relative undertakes that I will take this patient to psychiatric treatment on an outpatient regular basis in the nearest medical facility, then the court will allow that. Now subsection 2 says that if the case is one in which, in the opinion of the magistrate or court, as the case may be, bail cannot be granted, or if an appropriate undertaking is not given, then he or it shall order the accused to be kept in such a place where regular psychiatric treatment can be provided, and shall report the action taken to the state government. So where the bail cannot be granted or any appropriate undertaking is not given regarding the so called mentally unsound accused, then in that case the accused will be kept in a place where regular psychiatric treatment can be provided to him, and he will also report the action so taken to the state government, provided that no order for the detention of the accused in a lunatic asylum shall be made otherwise than in accordance to rules as the state government may have made under Mental Health Act. So Mental Health Act will be applicable, and as per its guidelines, the person so detained or the accused so detained will be put to a lunatic asylum only with accordance to such rules as the state government may have made. Now whenever a person is found under section 328 or 329 to be incapable of entering defense by reason of unsoundness of mind or mental retardation, the magistrate or court, as the case may be, shall, keeping in view the nature of the act committed and extent of unsoundness of mind or mental retardation, further determine if the release of an accused can be ordered. So it will be on the magistrate or the court to consider whether a person who is found mentally incapable under section 328 or 329, the magistrate or court will keep in view the nature of act that was committed by him and the extent of unsoundness of mind or mental retardation of the accused, and after considering both of these aspects, the court or magistrate shall further determine if the release of the accused can be ordered, provided that if on the basis of medical opinion or opinion of a specialist, the magistrate or court decides to order the discharge of the accused, then such release may be ordered if sufficient security is given that the accused shall be prevented from doing injury to itself or to other person. So when an assurance or security of sufficient amount is given that that accused person will be taken care of and that he will not be injuring himself or other person, then only that accused person will be released. And if the magistrate or court, as the case may be, is of the opinion that discharge of the accused cannot be ordered, then the transfer of the accused to a residential facility for persons of unsound mind or mental retardation may be ordered, wherein the accused may be provided care and appropriate education and training. So where the discharge cannot be done, then the accused will be provided a residential facility where such persons of unsound mind or mental retardation are generally kept by order, and where he may be provided care and appropriate education and training. So all those facilities will be provided to him. Now section 331 talks about resumption of inquiry or trial. So whenever an inquiry or a trial is postponed under section 328 or 329, then the magistrate or court, as the case may be, may at any time after the accused person concerned has ceased to be of unsound mind, resume the inquiry or trial and require the accused to appear or be brought before the magistrate or court. So as long as the person is of mentally unsound, up to that point of time, such trial will be postponed and such person will be taken care of. After such person gains his soundness of mind, he will be tried just like any other general accused, and he will also be made to appear or brought before such magistrate or court for the purposes of the trial. Now when the accused has been released under section 330 and the sureties for his appearance produce him to the officer whom the magistrate or court appoints in this behalf, the certificate of such officer that the accused is capable of making his defense shall be receivable in evidence. So where the person, because of unsoundness of mind, was released by the magistrate or the court of sessions, and any officer was appointed in that behalf, appearance of such unsound offender, then if such officer puts a certificate before the court that this person has now gained consciousness or soundness and he is now able to defend his case, then that information will be received in evidence in such trial. Now section 332 talks about procedure on accused appearing before magistrate or court. So if the accused person is again brought before the magistrate or court and the magistrate or court considers him capable of making his defense, the inquiry or trial shall proceed. Now if the magistrate or court considers that the accused to be still incapable of making his defense, then the magistrate or court shall act according to the provisions of section 328 or section 329. And if the accused is found to be of unsound mind and consequently incapable making his defense, then he shall deal with such accused in accordance with the provisions of section 330. So whether such person is able to defend his case or not will be considered by the magistrate, and if he is found to be of unsound mind and consequently incapable of making the defense, then he will be dealt with by the provisions of section 330. Otherwise he will be put to trial. Now section 333 talks about when accused appears to have been of sound mind. So when the accused appears to be of sound mind at the time of inquiry or trial, then the magistrate is satisfied from the evidence given before it, and there is reason to believe that the accused committed an act which, if he had been of sound mind, would have been an offense, and that he was at the time when the act was committed, by reason of unsoundness of mind, incapable of knowing the nature of the act, or that it was wrong or contrary to law, then the magistrate shall proceed with the case as if the accused ought to be tried by the court of sessions, commit him to trial before the court of sessions. That person may be of unsound mind at the time of commission of the offence, but at the time of trial or inquiry, if he is found to be of sound mind, then the trial will go on. And if the trial is of such nature that it has to be exclusively tried by the court of sessions, then that will be committed to the court of sessions. So this is what section 333 says. Now section 334 talks about judgment of acquittal on ground of unsoundness of mind. So whenever any person is acquitted upon the ground that at the time of commission of that offence he was, by reason of unsoundness of mind, incapable of knowing the nature of the act, or that it was a wrong or contrary to law, then the finding shall state specifically whether he committed the act or not. So not only the magistrate or the court of sessions will acquit him for the purposes of unsoundness of mind, but he will also have to state specific findings regarding the condition of the accused and whether he committed the act or not. That will have to be mentioned. Now let's move on to section 335 it talks about person acquitted on such ground to be detained in safe custody. So whenever the findings state that the accused person committed the alleged act, the magistrate or court before whom or which the trial has been held shall, if such act would, but for the incapacity found, have constituted an offence. So the act is an offence, but the act was committed due to unsoundness of mind. So whenever that findings are obtained from any particular case, then the court will order such person to be detained in safe custody in such place and manner as the magistrate or court of sessions thinks fit, or order such person to be delivered to any relative or friend of such person. So either the person will be put to safe custody after acquittal and in the same place and manner as the magistrate or court of sessions thinks fit, or he may also be ordered to be delivered to any relative or friend or such person. Now it also says that no order for the detention of the accused in a lunatic asylum shall be made under clause A of subsection 1 otherwise than in accordance with such rules as state government may made under the Indian Lunacy Act. So the state government will always be providing the rules for ordering the detention of any accused in a lunatic asylum, and that rule will always be followed. Now, no order for the delivery of the accused to a relative or friend shall be made under clause B of subsection 1 except upon the application of such relative or friend and on his giving security to the satisfaction of the magistrate or court that the person delivered shall be properly taken care of and prevented from doing injury to himself or to other person and be produced for the inspection of such officer at such time and places as the state government may direct. The provisions of clause B of subsection 1 that the relative or a friend of the accused is to be ordered to take care of such person will be only done if an application of such relative or friend is made before the court. So first the relative or friend will apply before the court that let me have that custody of that person, and then only the court will deliver such person to that relative or friend upon such application, and also that person who is taking such custody of that person will have to properly take care so that he does not hurt himself or other person, and he will also have to produce to the officer for inspection at such time and places as the state government may direct. Now the magistrate or court shall report to the state government the actions taken under subsection 1. So magistrate or court shall always report to the state government. Now let's move on to section 336. It talks about power of state government to empower officer in charge to discharge. So the state government may empower the officer in charge of the jail in which a person is confined under the provisions of section 330 or 335 to discharge all or any of the functions of the Inspector General of Prison under section 337 or 338. So the state government will empower the officer in charge of a jail to function as the Inspector General of Prisons. Now section 337 talks about procedure where lunatic prisoner is reported capable of making his defense. So if such person is detained, and in the case of the person detained in a jail, the Inspector General of Prison, or where the person is detained before a lunatic asylum, then the visitors of such asylum or any two of them shall certify that in his or their opinion such person is capable of making his defense. He shall be taken before the magistrate or court. So that person who is the Inspector General of Prison or the visitor of the lunatic asylum, they will certify that in their opinion that person who is accused and who is of unsound mind is capable of making his defense. Then in these cases he shall be taken before the magistrate or court, and the magistrate or court shall deal with such person under the provisions of section 332. So that section will be applicable on him. And the certificate of such Inspector General or visitors as aforesaid shall be receivable as evidence. So these two persons will certify as to the competency of such person, that yes, this person is able to defend himself. Now section 338 talks about procedure where lunatic detained is declared fit to be released. So if such person is detained under the provisions of subsection 2 of section 330 or 335 and such inspector general or visitor certifies that in their opinion or judgment he may be released without danger of doing injury to himself or other person, they certify, these two persons, the inspector general or the visitors, they certify that according to my opinion this person is out of danger, that he will not injure himself or other persons if he is released. Now on such report the state government may thereupon order him to be released or to be detained in custody. So whatever the report will contain, according to that the state government will act. Or he may also be transferred to a public lunatic asylum. So either he will be released or he will be detained in custody or he will be transferred to a public lunatic asylum if he has not been already sent to an asylum. And in case it orders him to transfer to an asylum, may appoint a commission consisting of a judicial and 2 medical officers. So where that person is sent to an asylum, then a commission may also be appointed, and that commission will be consisting of a judicial officer and 2 other medical officers. Now such commission shall make a formal inquiry into the state of mind of such person and take such evidence as is necessary, and shall report to the state government, which may order his release or detention as it thinks fit. So the state government will release or detain further as per the report of that commission, and that commission will make that report after a formal inquiry as to what is the state of the mind of such person, and they may also take evidence as necessary. Now let's move on to the last section of this chapter, that is section 339, which talks about delivery of lunatic to care of relative or friend. So whenever any relative or friend of any person who is so detained desires that he shall be delivered the custody and care of such person of unsound mind, then the state government may, upon the application of such relative or friend and on his giving security to the satisfaction of the state government that the person shall be so delivered that he will be properly taken care of and prevented from doing injury to himself or other person, and he may be produced for the inspection of such officer at time and places as the state government may direct, and in the case of a person detained under subsection 2 of section 330 be produced when required before such magistrate or court, order such person to be delivered to such relative or friend. So where any relative or friend of such person of unsound mind desires that this person shall be delivered to him regarding his custody, so that person's custody be delivered to him, then what will he do? He will put an application before the court who was trying the case of such unsound person, and the relative or that friend shall mention in that application that proper care will be taken of such person of unsound mind and he will be prevented from doing injury to himself or to other persons. Also, he will be produced for the inspection of such officer at such time and places as the state government may direct. And in the case of that person detained under subsection 2 of section 330, he will be produced when required before such magistrate or court. And upon making such application, if the court is satisfied that yes, there are grounds for believing such application, then the order of such person to be delivered to such friend or relative will be executed. Now, if such person so delivered is accused of any offence, then the trial of which has been postponed by reason of his being unsound mind and incapable of making his defence, and the inspecting officer who is referred to in clause B of subsection 1 certifies at any time that the magistrate or court that such person is capable of making his defence, then such magistrate or court shall call upon the relative or friend to whom such accused was delivered to produce him before the magistrate or court, and upon such production the magistrate or court shall proceed in accordance with the provisions of section 332, and the certificate of the inspecting officer shall be received as evidence. So, when the friend or relative is given the custody of such person of unsound mind and ordered that such person is to be taken to the inspecting officer at a particular time and place during a particular interval. Now, on inspecting such person of unsound mind, the officer in charge finds out that yes, this person has now regained his consciousness. He is now of sound mind and he can now defend his case. Then the magistrate will, on receiving such a report, if the court finds out from such a report that this person has now gained his consciousness, he is now of sound mind, then the magistrate will order the relative or friend to produce such accused before the court so that such person can now be tried. So that's all in this video. If you like my videos, then don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.